Someone I am is waiting for courage.
In 5th grade, my mother insisted I wear a girdle underneath a dress I wore to school. The old-fashioned rubber cut dimples into my tender, chunky thighs. When a sharp, gritty wind whipped my skirt into my face as I rounded the mobile schoolroom, shame burned my cheeks. My panic-quickened hands fought to hide the anomaly of my uncontrolled body in its new undergarment. On the playground, I was the F word, fat, sometimes the N word, black. I wore nerdy, thick plastic glasses. I was the last chosen for any team and to finish a race. After school, I rode the school bus, then walked home to an empty house to complete chores, start my homework. By the time my parents returned from work to cook dinner, I'd already eaten 2 bowls of breakfast cereal. At 28, my partner and I took in her 13-year-old cousin. We made sure he was supervised after school. We ate dinners together. She and I tried to make up for the neglect of his addicted mother. Working overtime, I supported our household, spending my free hours exhausted in front of the television, snacking on Zapp's chips or microwave popcorn washed down with pink lemonade. At my annual physical, 2 years later, I was diagnosed with diabetes. I wasn't sure how I was going to provide for us if I really got sick, let alone afford medications. I was scared that I would end up like my grandmother, housebound. She depended on my mother to take care of her. Bored and ornery, she scheduled insulin injections around trips to the kitchen. I didn't want to live that way. The sole complaint from our boy was that I should never, ever replace chorizo with a product called soy rizo. My partner was unhappy with the amount of time I spent walking the neighborhood and going to water aerobics. I wasn't available to watch movies or eat the desserts I prepared for them. Dissatisfied, she took up with the cashier from the Hostess Bakery outlet. I became a single parent. 15 years later, my kitchen was overrun with 3 refrigerators. The walk-in pantry filled floor to ceiling with food, some edible, some not. My partner was hoarding, I was overeating. As my clothes became tighter, it was clear I needed to do something radical. I called first, wanting someone in authority at the climbing gym to reassure me that if I lost 40 pounds first, it would be better. "We have a Climbing 101 class on Saturdays at 11 o'clock, the breezy high school equivalent voice encouraged. Why wait? I arrived into a chalky-smelling indoor mall canyon. Kai, my height, small-framed, wearing shorts and a woman's small polo shirt, announced that the class was in session. I walked towards him as he scanned the crowded gym for his students. I looked around the cavernous space, busy with granola hipsters and tween moms. East Asian Kai and African American Dawn were about to have a private lesson. "I believe I need a bigger size," I smiled, handing the harness I'd been given back to Kai. "No problem." He popped behind the counter, returned with a larger one. I was wearing a black spandex tank top with gray yoga pants, feeling scantily clad. Forcing the leg loops of the harness into my crotch left me camel-toed. Every nook and cranny of my personhood was on display. My toes hurt. "Are my feet supposed to be this cramped?" I asked, thinking the medieval torture moccasins on my feet were the wrong size. "Well," he said, regarding my overstuffed shoes, "they're meant to be tight so you can get your toes into rock crevices." The cramping in my digits was the sign of a good fit. What the hell had I gotten myself into? Kai escorted me to a beginner's course explaining the belay system. My heart was pounding. I had an audience. With Kai's guidance, I found a foot protrusion, a handhold, and pulled with all my might. I ascended 1 step. Immediately, my wrists and fingertips unhappily bore the weight of my suspended body. Extending my free foot, I located another ledge further up, pushed my foot onto it. One hand was free to reach up, the other forced to pull my body upward. I tried to lift my leg high enough to find purchase for the next move. The next hold was well outside my flexibility range. I think I'm done. I called over my shoulder to Kai below. Okay, he calmly replied. Now just lean back. Put your hands on the rope. No. Barely able to hold myself in place, I looked below to retrace my steps down. My weakening fingers were not going to give me more time on the wall. On television, this was the fun part of rock climbing. Pushing away from the wall with my feet to drift safely to the ground. Are you sure it's going to hold me? I questioned, looking at the pulley system attached to the ceiling, the rope without any tension on it. I was going to hit the ground hard. Of course, Kai started to reassure me as my toes and fingers gave up the ghost. I closed my eyes. Not recommended. Preparing for pain. I descended to the mat with controlled speed, bounced off my feet, and landed on my back. Not graceful, but not broken. Kai took me to another course and strapped himself in to spot me, seemingly unconcerned about our weight difference. Hand shaking, I managed to get one step up. I can't go any higher, I admitted, defeated. Lean back, he assured. I did, trusting him. I hung suspended 2 feet off the ground. It felt like floating. I could have rested there all damn day. Saturday mornings is for members only. I want to stay cozy in bed, but my new love badgers, "You're going to be late, get up." She insists I do what I said I wanted to do for myself. In the car, I talk down the butterflies in my stomach. You might be able to go up a bit further today. You've already made progress. It's okay if you don't, though. I ask for the size 11 shoes and the extra large harness. I make one climb, pushing myself past what I thought I could do. The top gets closer, the fall longer. I go to yoga afterwards, twist myself into uncomfortable and tenable positions on purpose. I discovered by following my curiosity and desires, there are rewards richer than a piece of cake. There are feelings like empowerment and liberation that don't have to be buried. If I'm seen, that means I'm out in the world living my life in spite of what anyone thinks of me or my body. If I'm heard, that means I have a powerful voice, one worth listening to. The confidence I gain from taking risks builds after each stunt I live through. I am on fire at my best. It gives me the courage to expand my experience beyond what I mistakenly allowed to define me. I am an adventurer. I am a writer. That's why I'm telling you the story about climbing a wall.